And in this edition of Fight Night Picks, listen, this doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I'll be sure to issue an apology because in this video, I'm about to say that Taila Santos is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She does not. She has a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a very nice Muay Thai background as well to go with it. But I just wanted to issue that correction. It was pointed out to me by an Instagram user who would DM me, and I really do appreciate that. But when mistakes are made, you got to fess up to it. And I am a human being and I made one. So, enjoy the video. My prediction stays the same. Matt's prediction stays the same. And we're really looking forward to the fights coming up this weekend. So, thanks for tuning in and let's get into that prediction video. Really interesting fight. In the women's flyweight division, we have Taila Santos coming in taking on the Canadian Gillian Robertson, the Savage. And Matt, if you watched our predictions in the last couple of weeks, we've talked quite a bit about Taila Santos. We're really looking forward to her fight against Montana De La Rosa. Unfortunately, one of De La Rosa's cornermen tested positive for COVID. She was out of the fight. They were looking to rebook it, and then all of a sudden, Taila Santos fighting Gillian Robertson. And for Taila Santos, I think that's pretty smart of her. I mean, you get a ranked opponent, Gillian Robertson. You really get to ply your trade. And stylistically, Montana De La Rosa and Gillian Robertson, somewhat similar. Some would say very similar. For Gillian Robertson, you look at some of these losses that she has in her career. You look at the record overall, too. I mean, 9-4, all right, it can't be that good. All right, I'm going to read through the losses. Her first pro fight, Hannah Goldie, now in the UFC. Second pro loss, Cynthia Calvillo. That's going to happen. Barb Honchak on Tough, Mayra Buena Silva, and Macy Barber. Now, Matt, I know Mayra Buena Silva, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. She's had some time away. But when Mayra Buena's on, she's on. She has flames tattooed to her forearm. So when she's on, she's on. You look at the wins that Gillian Robertson does have. The Poliana Botello fight, her last time out, she looked great. The win over Courtney Casey where she submitted her, and that was just this past summer. And I actually remember, and I'm not going to say last names, but Andrew, if you're out there on Twitter, you hit me up in the DMs and you said, well, you know, Gillian Robertson lost to Amanda Lowen at Submission Underground. What's all that about? That can't be good. What's that loss on a record? Go watch Amanda Lowen grapple. She's one of the best women's grapplers out there, period. So there's no shame in that. I think, if anything, that's a feather in your cap that they match those two up. And it really speaks to Gillian Robertson's grappling acumen. And you look at the gym choice that I went with in the graphic that I have up there. I have gamblers, jiu-jitsu, and martial arts, I believe is what I put. No longer training at American Top Team is Gillian Robertson. She's kind of at a bit of an offshoot, training with Dean Thomas and a myriad of coaches, if you will. So it's been very interesting. She's one of those fighters that definitely prefers that individuality rather than going to a big camp and not really getting to spend much time with the coaches. You're just spending more time sparring and getting ready with a lot of fighters, which, hey, different people, it works differently. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Different strokes for different folks. And with Gillian Robertson, so after she lost to Macy Barber, I did write Gillian Robertson off, but she has shown a lot of improvements. And whether that is her leaving the big American Top Team gym and getting some more personalized training with Dean Thomas, whether it is all because of that or just her maturation as a martial artist, she has looked really good as of late. In the Courtney Casey fight, listen, Courtney Casey's been there. She's done that. She's fought pretty much every high-level women's fighter in the UFC. And the fact that Gillian Robertson could go out there and not only beat her, but finish her is extremely impressive. And I know Courtney Casey's been on a bit of a poor streak as of late, but that's a very important win for a young up-and-coming fighter to have. And we talk about this a lot. There are some people who, yeah, they might not be the most respected fighters, but they're just names that are nice to see on a fighter's resume as they work their way up the rankings. Like Bilal Muhammad, I would say, is a great example of that. When you look at Jeff Neal and where you can put his ceiling at, you can say, oh, well, he beat Bilal Muhammad, so he kind of passed that wrestling check mark. Gillian Robertson passed the veteran check mark of, okay, I'm fighting someone with a tremendous amount of experience, but I'm going to be so much better than them that the experience won't really play much of a factor into this fight. I like what you said about Taila Santos, though, as well. She got really lucky on this short notice matchup. A lot of the times we see, for instance, Tony Ferguson went from fighting Khabib Nurmagomedov to Justin Gaethje, the two most polar opposite fighters you could ever have. Whereas now Santos is basically walking into a very similar matchup that she was originally promised last week. So it will be interesting to see, will her training for Montana De La Rosa pay off in this fight? Will the fact that she has been getting ready for a very volume-heavy wrestler, will that pay off in this fight? And I do think that that's a big benefit that she'll be coming into the cage with.
And I mean, you look at the fight that Taila Santos was supposed to have against Montana De La Rosa, you could really point to a couple of different things. Taila Santos has very good takedown defense. And I know she had the loss in her UFC debut, and it was to a fighter that's no longer in the UFC, in a fighter that Matt has a really hard time pronouncing her name, in Maro Barella.
I do.
But that is a tricky loss. You lose that one by split decision. Well, what do? You go out there and have a great performance against Meatball Molly McCann where, again, takedown defense is on point. You can really string together your full arsenal of attacks. And this was a woman that coming into the UFC, she's 15-0. You look at the names on the resume, they're not very good. But you go back and watch her fight on Contender Series and you realize, okay, you have to kind of build yourself up. And if that's what it took to get Taila Santos here, then so be it. There's so many things that I like out of Taila Santos' game. There's also a lot of things that I like out of Gillian Robertson's game. And I think her striking's really starting to come together. We know how good of a grappler she is. We know how good her wrestling can be as well. I know as far as percentages, her takedown accuracy at 50%, that is quite good. Taila Santos normally shooting for takedowns as well. 77% so far in just the 3 fights that she's had. Again, Almeida on Contender Series, Romero Barella, and then McCann. 83% takedown defense over that 3-fight sample size. As far as striking, again, the more volume-heavy striker is Taila Santos. She tends to land a little bit more too. And again, to really talk matches and styles for styles, Gillian Robertson was matched up for a fight, well, just last weekend, and it fell through against Andrea Lee. Robertson was going to take on a primary striker in Andrea Lee. Now you go in against a striker that has the added X factor of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Taila Santos is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, I don't know if it's a Thiago Santos Shogun Rua black belt or if it's legit, but I know that Taila Santos has been there against some decent competition, and she's been able to keep it standing. So for Gillian Robertson, you're only 25 years old. Taila Santos is only 27 too. Can you take her down? Because I think that's pretty much the path to victory for Gillian Robertson. I don't see her standing and swinging with Santos in this one, finding a ton of success.
No, I agree. This fight is going to come down to grappling no matter what. I honestly think Talia Santos is going to be going for takedowns as well on Robertson. It's going to come down to who can get the takedown. Because if Robertson can go out there, get a takedown early, really impose her will in that first round, and sap the strength from Santos, it's going to be an easier fight for Robertson moving forward. Whereas Talia Santos, if she can start defending takedowns, really make Gillian Robertson uncomfortable on the feet, she is similar to like a Jack Hermanson, and where if she isn't able to get the takedown, not that she panics on the feet, but you can just tell that there's an overall comfort that she isn't quite there yet with her striking. So for Santos, I do think she'll have more success on the feet. I like Robertson in this fight, though. I do think she'll be able to get the takedown. I like her transitions on the mat, too. She's a very busy grappler where she won't just wait and lay and pray. She's always going for the back, sort of similar to a Damian Maia. Not that her grappling is anywhere near his level, but just the fact that she is always going for the back, It's a great position, and I do think Robertson's going to be able to get this one. It's a hard fight to predict,
I mean, I like what you said. She's always busy when she's on the ground. She doesn't just kind of accept and lay in somebody's guard. She's always looking to do something, and especially when you're trying to judge a fight, the judges like to see a little bit of movement as well as the top control. In terms of the predictions over on Topology, 607 of them, 70% have Robertson, 66% have her to win by decision. Taila Santos open a -125 favorite. She's now at a -111 over on Best Fight Odds. For Gillian Robertson, open +105. She's now at a -111. So it's a pick'em fight. And I'm going to pick him a different way. I'm going to pick Taila Santos here. I'm sticking to it. I had her to beat Montana De La Rosa. I feel like that was actually probably an easier fight for her than Gillian Robertson, but I really do like her advances in her striking. I like her ground game. I think this is definitely a winnable fight for Taila Santos. She has a 1-inch height advantage. She has 5 inches in reach, depending on where you're at or which site you go to. But yeah, I expect Taila Santos to be able to get the win here. Again, if Robertson gets on top early, maybe as the fight goes on, I go with Robertson. This is one that I'd leave off my card. I pick him, it's pretty juicy, but I'd leave it off. But I like Santos here. You like Robertson, we're disagreeing, but overall, really like this fight, and it really holds some important status in this women's flyweight division. A couple wins, string them together, you're right up there at the top. So really looking forward to it. Got a great playlist of fights, 15 of them in total coming up on this card, so you're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt, as we always say.
Let's get into it.